Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. For today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to put together this lovely turtleneck long sleeve mini dress pattern. Now, I absolutely love this pattern. It cinches in the waist, it hugs the figure, everything looks absolutely amazing, and I must say it's quite elegant. Now, when you get your PDF pattern, you will open it obviously on Adobe Acrobat, and you'll notice a little section that says the layout of this PDF pattern. This shows you how all your pages need to be put together when you stick everything together. Now scroll all the way down, and there we go, we see a little bit of our sleeve. Now we do have layers printing available, which allows us to print a specific size that we want, or you can just print all the sizes. It's all up to you. Now, you want to make sure that you are printing at 100% scale or actual size. Basically, what this does is make sure that you are printing at actual size. Now, when you print your page, you want to snip off the right side of the border and snip off the bottom, and then overlap it with the next page, making sure that those circles, they connect and those lines are all cohesive. Now, this is what the layout of this specific pattern looks like. You want to use 4-way stretch fabric that is 50% up to 70%. Don't use anything over 70%. Remember, a ½ inch seam allowance is already included, and always print at 100% scale. Now let's talk about some of the things I'm going to be using for this specific pattern. Some of them are optional. This is optional. You can just use a that's a twin needle, but you can use your zigzag stitch. The next one, my normal stretch needles, and then I have my knitting foot, and then I have my normal foot. I would really recommend that you get a knitting foot when you are working with stretch fabric. Please get it. It is worth the investment. It basically makes sure that the bottom of the fabric is feeding at the same rate as the top of the fabric, which will get rid of any waviness that you might experience. Now, I'm also going to be using my serger. That is why I have 5 pieces of thread. This is absolutely optional. You do not need this part. So let's get into it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my 2 pieces, my front and my back, and putting them right sides together, and I'm going to pin them at the shoulder seam. When I'm done pinning them at the shoulder seam, I'm going to take them to my sewing machine and just stitch a straight stitch. Right, for all the people that are using a sewing machine, just stitch a straight stitch over here and cut off the excess seam allowance. Otherwise, you can just take it to your serger and just stitch it, because you know the serger will automatically get rid of that seam allowance. It will trim it off for you. But if you don't have a serger, that is okay. You can just go ahead and just stitch it with your sewing machine and then cut off. So this is what it looks like after I put on my serger. I'm so sorry guys, I forgot to film the part where I was actually serging it. I am so sorry, but this is what it looks like. Now, when I'm done with that, what I'm doing is I'm just going to snip off that excess chain, and then I'm going to put my loop turner under my chains, right? And then I'm going to pull the excess chain under it to make it look nice and neat and professional. And I don't want to cut it too close because it's going to start to unravel. That's why I'm just pulling it under there. I love this. I saw somebody else do it and I was like, I have to try this, and I've never changed my ways after that. Now what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to go ahead and just start attaching my shoulder. Now understand, not my shoulder, my arm, my sleeve, right? My armhole, my sleeve. So it's important to understand that the back is going to have double notches while the front only has 1 notch. So you want to make sure that those double notches for the back are attaching to the double notches on your dress, right? The center notch is going to line up with that shoulder seam right there, and I'm just going to pin it in place and then pin at the back. This is the back. How I know that this is the back is it's because it has the double notch. I am so sorry for tripping on my words right there. I'm so sorry guys, but I just want to make sure that you guys do understand that the back is going to have double notches, so you make sure that the double notches are matching the double notches on the dress, and the one notch is matching the other one notch. Now this was so I did about 10 patterns, 10 long sleeve patterns. This was the first one that I did, and I realized that I really don't like attaching my sleeves like this. I like attaching my sleeves on the round, which is what I do in my other tutorials, but this also works really well. So let's go ahead and just, you know, attach, pin everything. When I'm done pinning everything, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and just sew it, and then take it to my serger and reinforce it. Like I said, if you do not have a serger, this is okay. All you would need to do is just complete a straight stitch on your sewing machine. Yeah. Now that I have it, what I'm going to do is I'm then going to pin under the armhole, and I'm going to pin the side seam. Now guys, I need you to remember that the back piece is slightly shorter than the front piece. So what you need to do is you're going to need to make sure that the notches on your front and your back line up, meaning that you will have to slightly stretch your back piece to make sure that those notches line up. I'm going to go ahead and just stitch that, pin that side seam, but also pin the rest of my sleeve at the side, and I'm going to stitch one whole straight stitch, and I'm going to take it to my serger. Remember, you don't need a serger, you can just go ahead and complete that one straight stitch from the wrist all the way down to the hem of the dress. So I am just stitching. Okay, so I want to do the same thing to the both of the sides, and this is what it now looks like. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to start working on my turtleneck. So what I'm going to do with my turtleneck, when I get to it, I was just showing you guys how the side seams look. So I'm going to take my turtleneck and I'm just going to fold it in half, right? So fold it in half just like that, making sure that the stretchiest part of your turtleneck is running horizontally. Then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch at that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, you totally do not need to take it to your serger after this, but I did it just to be a little bit extra. You don't need to do this. You can just cut off the excess, and then we're going to fold it in anyway, so no one will ever see the inside of this turtleneck. So I'm just snipping off the excess threads that are not necessary. Then I've taken it to my serger and I've serged it. Now I'm going to fold it, making sure that everything lines up perfectly. I'm folding it in half, making sure that everything lines up perfectly. Then what I'm going to do after I fold it is I'm going to fold it again in half, and I'm going to make a notch in the center right there. I'm going to fold it on the seam that I've stitched, and I want to make sure that I just get everything perfectly lined up, and I'm just going to quickly make a notch right over there to know where is my center. Then what I'm going to do is, after I've done that, I'm going to match up that notch that I've made with the back seam. That seam is going to act as my back seam. And over there I was just like cutting the quarters, but you don't need to cut the quarters. Just make sure that that seam that you stitched lines up with the center back of your pattern. So as you see me now, I'm putting the side seams, matching the side seams together, and I'm making a notch over there at the back, and I'm going ahead and I'm going to make another notch on the center front. Then I'm going to line up my turtleneck. That seam that we stitched is going to match up with the center back. Then the center front seam is going to match up with the center front seam. Then I am matching up the side seams. So you definitely want to take your time when you're doing this. It is a fairly quick project in my opinion because there's no binding attached. It's not a complex project. So you want to take your time and make sure that you're lining everything up perfectly. So now go ahead and just hop onto your sewing machine, and then I'm going to be using a straight stitch to keep everything in place. Then of course I'm going to be going back to my serger and I'm going to be stitching it using my serger. Now if you are using your sewing machine, if you only have a sewing machine, I would recommend that doing this part with a zigzag stitch, because when you're putting it over your head, it is going to stretch a lot and you don't want it to break. The only reason I use a straight stitch at this point is because I knew I'm going to take it to my serger. But if you don't have a serger, this is where you would use your zigzag stitch to make sure that when you're putting it over your head and it's stretching, that it doesn't break. So over here, I did make sure that I removed the other part. I don't know what to call that, but the other compartment in my serger to make enough room to where I could fit my neck hole comfortably and be able to just serge it. So now our dress is almost done. All we have to do is hem our wrist and hem the actual dress. Now you can just make a decision on how short you want your dress to be. I realized at this point that I wanted my dress to be extra short, so I'm folding it in at my desired length. It's about, I think, 2 inches. I folded it in, I think, about 2 inches. And I was like, yes, I love this. So you decide for yourself. You might want an extra micro mini. You might want it micro mini, or you might just want it a normal mini dress, or you know, just fold it in about half an inch. It's all up to you at this point. So I'm just gonna fold it in, and then I'm just pinning it. And the reason why I keep using my measuring tape is I want to make sure that it's the size that I'm pinning it is consistent throughout the whole thing. You know, I don't want it to be like half an inch, 1 inch there, then 2 inches the other side, and blah blah blah. So now I'm using my twin needle. To be honest, I would say just use a zigzag stitch. The twin needle can be quite, you know, complex and quite hard to work with, so I would just suggest that go ahead and just use your zigzag stitch for this part. If you want that professional finish, yes, use the twin needle, but it's really not necessary. You know, just go ahead with your zigzag stitch and just hem your dress. And remember, what you're doing for hemming the dress is exactly what you're going to do for the rest too. So this is what it looks like on the other end when you are using the twin needle. It makes this neat little zigzag on the other end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim off that excess seam allowance. I want to come about 1 millimeter close to that zigzag stitch. So as you can see, I'm just using my scissors to just trim off. Now remember guys, exactly what I've done for hemming this dress is what I'm going to do for my wrist. I'm not going to show it in this video because of time constraints, but yeah, you're just going to cut off the trim and you are going to have your dress. How nice is this dress? If you made it to this part, I want to say thank you so much for watching the video or for even purchasing the pattern. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you did buy the pattern, leave a review. I definitely want to see how beautiful it looks on you.